August 1st, 2000 come to order. Roll call.
Champion.
Here.
Canner.
Here.
Lehman.
Here.
O'Donnell. Bob.
Here.
Vanderhoff.
Here.
Woburn.
Here.
Item 2 are mayor's proclamations. We have one proclamation tonight. Whereas in the 2000 presidential election there will be more first-time voters than ever before, and whereas the political voter registration campaign has been credited with dramatically increasing youth voter awareness and turnout, and for becoming a unique new voice in political news media, and whereas this political voter registration campaign strives to educate, inform, and involve young people in the election process and get them registered and committed to voting. Now, therefore, I, Ernest W. Lehman, Mayor of the City of Iowa City, Iowa, do hereby proclaim August 2nd, 2000 to be Voter Registration Day in Iowa City.
And here to accept is Carrie Altoff.
Just to let you know a little bit about this campaign, AT&T Cable Services in Cedar Rapids and Iowa City, along with MTV, the Choose or Lose campaign, the national campaign, have been working at different events and on different projects for the past 2 months. I'm the area coordinator. We've registered 201 new voters for the Iowa City and Cedar Rapids area in our target age of 18 to 24, which is the smallest percentage of voters in the United States currently. So it's very important that the City Council recognizes these efforts of AT&T and MTV, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3 is to consider the adoption of the consent calendar as presented or amended.
Move adoption.
By Vanderhoff, seconded by Bob. Discussion. Roll call.
Champion?
Yes.
Canner?
Yes.
Lehman?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Vanderhoff?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4 is public discussion. This is the time reserved on the agenda for the public to address council. This is limited to items that do not otherwise appear on the agenda. If you wish to address the council, please come to the podium, sign your name, give your address, and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Hello, my name is Dan Ramsey, and I was here at the work session last night and heard you talk a little bit about the alcohol and tobacco issues. A couple of questions that I have real quick. Number one, talking about enforcement. Enforcement for enforcing it on the sellers of the alcohol. Could you not, let me ask you this, could you not, right now we're fining clerks at convenience stores for selling cigarettes. Under what statute or what article are we selling or fining clerks for? I mean, how are we given due process for that?
Are you talking about tobacco?
Right, for tobacco.
Those are criminal charges to date. We haven't done the civil penalties.
Okay, so if the clerk sells it, it's a civil penalty, but for as far as the retailers are concerned, it's civil penalties?
No, it's whether they're charged with a criminal action or whether there's a civil penalty imposed. It's a civil penalty that requires, I mean, criminal penalties have due process at the courthouse. You go in front of a judge and you have the right to your say there. Civil penalties are something that would be imposed by the City Council after a hearing in front of the City Council.
I see. Okay, well, thank you very much. Also, the other thing I wanted to bring up was, I guess it's along the same lines, is compliance check. I work with MECA, and I'm responsible for the compliance checks. I round up the kids and talk to Officer Gass, who's with the Iowa City Police Department, and he goes out with the kids that I select and train, and he goes out and does compliance checks, of which we've done probably 30 of them in the last, I don't know, 2 months probably. And I think we've gotten, I think the first group of the ones that we did were around 27% non-compliance, and this last one I think we're around 12% non-compliance. I think the state goal is under 10% non-compliance, of which we're not meeting that right now.
This is on tobacco?
This is on tobacco, okay. That's right. And also I talked to Chief Winkelhack as well, and he asked me to try to round up kids for doing stings on alcohol as well. And I know you were discussing it last night, and I found it very interesting what a lot of you had to say. as far as doing things on alcohol as well. And I really think that they'll be effective. And part of the problem that you guys were discussing last night is how are you going to fund these? You know, where's the money going to come from? Well, the one thing that I had in mind as far as tobacco and alcohol is concerned is you get $1,500 when you find a permit holder, an alcohol permit holder. You get $1,500 from that permit holder. Wouldn't that not fund a lot of police overtime as well? And it wouldn't take very many of those, a lot like some of the council members brought up last night. It wouldn't take very many of those in order to bring the sales to underage drinkers down as well. You know, just an idea, a little food for thought. And as far as the tobacco compliance is concerned, I received an email from Patrick White about getting together with him, and I guess the next we're going to have a joint meeting of which Patrick White and I and most of you, I'm sure, and Eileen Fisher, who's the chairman of the Johnson County Tobacco Free Coalition, who I also represent here, get together and discuss what we can do as far as finding the retailers. Because really what we found and what research has shown is that really makes a difference. You know, you can find 15-year-old clerks all you want, and they're going to lose their jobs, and they're going to be very upset, and they're going to have a hard time getting another job and everything else. But that's not very effective. In fact, one of the last compliance checks that we did was with some of these kids, and they went out and a 15-year-old kid sold cigarettes to some of our kids. And when the officer came and issued him a citation, he was very, very upset, on the verge of tears. You know, 15-year-old kid on the verge of tears because this is his first job that he's ever had. Obviously, he hasn't been trained, and I believe it's the retailer's fault for not training this kid properly in order so he doesn't sell cigarettes to other kids. So in that situation, and I'm sure there's lots of other situations that go out there every day, it's not really the clerk's fault, it's the retailer's fault for not providing the training. And right now, if the retailers or permit holders for alcohol don't have any penalties, any consequences, you know, what motivates them to make sure that they're not selling to underage people? And I think that's something that you know, I would appreciate if the council could discuss at some point, find out what they want to do about enforcement for those things. And I know we discussed it before. I know you were discussing it last night as well.
Well, my understanding from last night's discussion is that the council directed me to look at that issue and set up a procedure. That was my understanding. So unless you
Correct.
tell me otherwise,
That's correct.
that was the direction. So I think the discussion in terms of that is done, and we're going to move forward on that. And then get something in place and assess it after a period of time.
We're on the same sheet of music there.
Okay, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any more public discussion? Item 5, planning and zoning matters. A is a public hearing on an ordinance rezoning 20.78 acres from interim development multifamily to public for property located west of Gilbert Street, south of Napoleon Lane. This is a public hearing. The public hearing is open. This is the property on which the new Public Works building will be constructed. Public hearing is closed. Item B is a public hearing on an ordinance rezoning 35.15 acres from planned development housing overlay to sensitive areas overlay and approving the preliminary sensitive areas development plan for Walnut Ridge parts 8 through 10, a 23-lot residential subdivision located on Kennedy Parkway. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed. Item C. Consider a resolution approving the annexation of 69.37 acres of property located at the southwest corner of Lower West Branch Road and Taft Avenue.
Move adoption.
Second.
Moved by Vander Raaf, seconded by O'Donnell. Discussion. Roll call.
Canner?
Yes.
Lehman?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Vanderhoff?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Chandler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item D, consider an ordinance to conditionally rezone 30.32 acres from county suburban residential to low-density single-family residential and 39.05 acres from county suburban residential to interim development residential for property located at the southwest corner of Lower West Branch Road and Taft Avenue. This is first consideration.
Move first consideration.
Second.
Moved by O'Donnell, seconded by Champion. Discussion. Roll call.
Lehman,
Yes.
O'Donnell.
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Vanderhoff,
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
Champion.
Yes.
Canner.
Yes.
Item E is considered an ordinance to rezone 54 acres from public intensive commercial to sensitive areas overlay, and for approval of a preliminary sensitive areas development plan for property located in the north part of the airport property west of Riverside Drive. We have been asked to defer this to August 15th. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Move deferment.
Moved by Champion. Second by Fobb. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
One comment on that item, I did get a faxed purchase agreement from Super Value today and expect the original tomorrow, so you can do
So
that
it
one
will be-
next.
We can work on it, do it next time. Item F, consider a letter to the Johnson County Board of Supervisors recommending denial of a rezoning of 125.43 acres located in Fringe Area C, east of Dane Road and west and south of Lake Ridge Mobile Home Park from County A1 Rural and RS Suburban Residential to County RMH Manufactured Housing Residential, and the applicant has requested deferral on this one to August 15th.
Move to defer to the 15th.
Moved by Vandeross, seconded by O'Donnell. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, proceedings to take additional action for the issuance of $12 million in sewer revenue bonds. Assuming, Dale, these are just issuance of bonds to, as part of this sewer project that's been going on for a while.
Right, the next two items, one has to do with this sewer plant construction, the other one with the water plant
Right.
construction.
Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed.
Move adoption.
Moved by Vanderoff, seconded by Woburn. Discussion. Roll call.
O'Donnell.
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Vanderhoff,
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
Champion.
Yes.
Canner.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 7, proceedings to take an additional action for the issuance of not to exceed $13 million for water revenue bonds. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is closed.
I move the resolution.
Second.
Moved by Fobb, seconded by Champion. Discussion? Roll call.
Cobb,
Yes.
Vanderhoff,
Yes.
Milburn.
Yes.
Champion.
Yes.
Canner.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
O'Donnell.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 8, consider a resolution amending the bylaws of the Historic Preservation Commission to provide for a second regular monthly meeting as needed.
Move adoption.
By Vanderoff, seconded by O'Donnell. I might add this recommendation was made as a result of the meeting of the Rules Committee, which met last week, and we're recommending approval of this, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And the only difference is that this allows for a regular scheduled meeting that will not be held if it's not needed.
Right.
But it keeps them from having to call around to set up a time.
It's
Discussion? Pardon?
wonderful when volunteers are volunteering to add an additional meeting to
Well, I think this is
make
so,
it move smoothly.
this is so they can act in a more timely fashion for
It
requests.
is. We appreciate it.
Roll call.
Vanderhoff,
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Champion.
Yes.
Canner.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
O'Donnell.
Yes.
Cobb.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 9, consider resolution approving, authorizing, and directing the mayor to execute and city clerk to attest an agreement by and between the city of Iowa City and Howard R. Green Company to provide engineering consultant services for the design of Mormon Trek Boulevard improvements.
Move adoption.
By Vanderoff, seconded by O'Donnell. If I'm not mistaken, this is the design work for Mormon Trek between the railroad overpass and Melrose Avenue, and I think a little bit, I think it's a turn lane or something south of Melrose as well.
Right.
Discussion?
I have just one comment, and that is that the design work allow as many options for construction that are effective and as cost effective as possible, whatever they might be.
I hope we do that all the time.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the surface of the road or what the road is constructed of is not bid with alternate bids.
My suspicion is this is going to be a joint project between the University of Iowa and the city of Iowa City.
Well, true, but I mean, the specs are prepared such that,
Oh, yeah.
it's designed in a certain way, and then it's bid out, there are certain options that a contractor may have as how they proceed. But if we specify a certain material or something, that's what they have to use.
Well, I mean, the roads can be designed with different materials and be as effective, and you have more competition and a better chance of coming up with a better price. That's all
Rick, may want to talk.
that's all I'm asking.
Okay, if you're interested in including an asphalt alternate in this, we need to look at some of the other issues there, and one of those being the effect on bike traffic, in that you usually have like an 18-inch curb and gutter section on it, concrete, and then there's that joint that often opens up with time, and that's right in where the bikes are. And we've tried to avoid that in our community because of the amount of bike traffic that we do have. So, you know, it's up to you all if you want to proceed that route. We just need to acknowledge the trade-offs there.
Rick, this project, I'm assuming, I shouldn't do that, but I'm assuming that this project is basically, it's kind of a joint project between the University of Iowa and the City of Iowa City. It
Yes,
goes through
it
their
is.
property, and I'm sure the design work and whatever is going to be, I would assume we'll be very sensitive to their concerns in the design of the project, and they are sensitive to ours. I would assume that specifying the material in that is going to be something that will be a joint agreement between the City of Iowa City and the University of Iowa. And what would our engineer recommend for that project?
Well, we can go either direction.
I know that, but what would you recommend at this point? I don't know if we
Okay.
haven't gone far.
Yeah, given the bicycle issues, I like going with the full width concrete. And if you want to do an asphalt alternate, we can do that.
Well, is there alternatives that will work for bikes also?
If you narrow that curb and gutter section, it becomes less stable, the smaller you make it. The wider you make it, the less reason there is to go with an asphalt alternate, because that cost of the curb and gutter section very quickly prices asphalt out of the game.
Well, will the bike trail be the same surface as the road surface?
There will be an 8-foot sidewalk on the west side of this. And
Will that allow bike traffic?
Well, it'll be 8 feet wide. If we want to designate it as a bicycle trail, then we need to go 10 feet wide.
Well, wouldn't it be safer to have the bikes off the road?
Well, it depends on who you ask, and that's
Whether
really up
you're
to
the
the rider.
pedestrian or the bike rider.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the last time a hiker or walker got run over by a
Oh,
bike.
not very long ago.
It was Connie.
Well, there are many riders that prefer the
That was
roadway.
OMGY.
And they're very seriously injured.
I think that, you know, I'm not an engineer, don't pretend to be, but I think the city has to look wherever we can get as good, make our money go as far as we can.
Well, and it's clear that we want a safe area and for the bicycles, and that's one of our high priorities, and if you feel we can do it better with concrete, then that's how we should proceed.
I'll continue to look at that issue and see if there's anything we can work out there.
Spend a lot of
But
time
if
on it.
you, next time you're driving a street like that, look at that interface between the concrete curb and gutter and the asphalt.
But the reason that I pressed you a little bit farther than I normally would have here is the fact, isn't there a way to separate the bicycle from the auto traffic?
Sure, you could require that the bicycles ride on the trail, but I think you'd get some major objections from some of the bicycling community that feel very strongly that the bikes should be allowed on the roadway.
Rick, can you prohibit bicycles on a road in Iowa? I believe that the bicycles
Can we
have the
own-
right to use the road.
I think, I mean, I haven't looked at it recently, but my general understanding has been that they have the right to be on the road.
That's
Okay.
correct. So we can build whatever we want facilities for bicycles. If they choose to drive on that road, that is their right to do so in the state of Iowa.
But-
Whether we could legislate locally contrary to that, I don't know.
Don't you can suggest it.
But isn't this the reason we're spending as much time and effort on bike trails to reduce the desire of bike riders to be on the road and make it safer for everyone?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people that would like to ride if there's an opportunity where they don't need to ride on the road. And we're getting those folks out riding where we do have the trails. And there is a bicycle trail component of this project.
Right.
It goes from it's on the east side from the intersection by the entrance to the married student housing north, and it will tie into the university's bike trail that goes along the railroad there. But the only walk that goes all the way through is on the east side, and that's going to be 8 feet wide. Excuse me, the west side.
I think Irvin makes a good point. It's not a question of outlawing people on the street. It's a question of where we put our resources. If we're going to have significant savings and we can widen the sidewalk by 2 feet, it might be worth it to go there. So the question in my mind is, what is the savings if we would go one option versus another? I think that's part of what I heard Irvin getting at, and it makes sense to me what he brought up, to look at that.
And we can do that if you like.
I would really appreciate if we could see a workup on something like that.
Okay.
Well,
can
I
we see,
think it's important, before we go getting options on this project, if there are strong feelings from, as far as engineering the road is concerned, that one material is superior to the other and a better value in the long run, I think we need to defer to the opinion of the engineering folks. Now, all things being equal, obviously, an option would be wonderful. I don't think all things are equal.
Yeah. Well, knowing what you're interested in, we'll take a look at that and see if there's a way to incorporate it in
Well,
there. Yeah.
a lot of other cities are going to straight asphalt, so that, I mean, those councils might be almost as smart as we are.
I doubt it.
Okay.
Eleanor, were you going to say something? Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Other discussion? Roll call.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Champion?
Yes.
Canner?
No.
Lehman?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Bob?
No.
Vanderhoff?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-2, Cantor and Fobb voting no. Item 10, consider a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign formal purchase agreements between the City of Iowa City and Ecumenical Housing Corporation for the sale of Ecumenical surface parking lot to the city for construction of Tower Place and parking, and the sale of condominium unit 1F in Tower Place and parking to Ecumenical from the city. Said agreements to be in accordance with the parties' letter of understanding dated June 29, 1999.
Move adoption.
Second.
Moved by Champion, seconded by O'Donnell. This is formalizing something that has been agreed to for some time, is that
This
not
is a letter
correct?
of understanding that you did with Ecumenical Towers in connection with the acquisition of their property and the provision of replacement parking to them in Tower Place and parking. Substantively, the purchase agreements will be what the letter of understanding is, but
Discussion? Roll call?
Canner?
No.
Lehman?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Vanderhoff?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Champion?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1, Cantor voting no. Item number 11, consider resolution dedicating auditor's parcel number 2000031, containing 32.79 acres and lot 38, First and Rochester subdivision, Part 1, for park purposes.
So moved.
Moved by O'Donnell,
Second?
seconded by Vanderhoff. Discussion?
Question related to the 32.79 acres, was that a surveyor, did they get out and mark that? Is that the
Yes, there's a
complete
plat.
balance of
There's a
that?
plat that we've recorded with the recorder's office that's attached to the resolution, which
Okay.
has surveyed off that piece. Basically divided it into two parcels, that which has been used for cemetery, the recent cemetery expansion, and that remaining.
I'll be voting no on this. I have followed this project all the way through Parks and Recreation for many years and discussions with the family, and I can go along with designating it to be used until such time as it needs to be used for a cemetery, but I do not go along with dedicating it in the long haul for parkland.
I would speak in respectful opposition to Councilperson D. Vanderhoff, and that is when I was really concerned when the addition to the cemetery was finished, and to look there, it appears that was, in one sense, kind of a sad thing. There was an awful lot of beautiful trees whacked out of there, and for a limited a number of grave sites, and because of the rough terrain. So I'm saying enough is enough, and that's just my own personal feelings.
Eleanor, just for clarification, this will be dedicated, assuming we pass this, and dedicate this as parkland. That can be reversed by any future council at any time. Is that not correct?
Subject to the rights
As long as there hasn't been actually taken a
persons who-
reliance on this.
Yes.
Right.
Subject to the what, Eleanor?
Subject to the rights of property owners who have, or persons who have relied on the dedication. And the easiest example of that would be the dedication of a road that somebody uses for access, for instance. You can't undedicate that. You know, what that will mean at the point when a council might choose to change that decision, I can't say for sure, but that's the basic standard.
Well, since this council had paid for an entire plan for this area and had divided it into 3 phases, that's why I can support designating it for use until Phase 2 and Phase 3 are needed. But this plan was put forth for the long-term plan, and I feel we should just continue with the long-term plan.
Other discussion?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all, Dee, and I guess the fact that any council, it's their prerogative to change this back. I don't see any reason for this now, so I'll support it, but I understand what you said.
Roll call.
Lehman?
No.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Bob?
Restate. I had a senior moment here. Restate it. We are voting what then?
On the dedication
On
of land.
Yes.
for Retail Park.
Okay, just,
You vote
Yes.
yes. Okay.
Vanderhoff?
No.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Champion?
Yes.
Canner?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-2, Vanderhoff and Lehman voting no. Item 12, consider a resolution amending the budget positions in the city attorney's office by increasing the position of assistant attorney from 2 full-time equivalents to 2.5 full-time equivalents.
Move adoption of the
Second.
resolution.
Moved by Vanderhoff, seconded by O'Donnell. Discussion.
I'm going to be voting against it, not because the arguments aren't valid ones, but I feel that we should bring this up at the budget process and throw it into the mix with the other personnel discussion, and especially so soon after the last budget was adopted.
I don't disagree with you, but my understanding is that this probably was not anticipated at the time that we made the budget. Isn't that correct, Eleanor?
Oh, I think I've wanted more people for a long time.
Well, I don't remember seeing a
So, I
request.
mean, I think I understand Stephen's position, but I think also the timing of my evaluation is significant here. And I think, unlike other people who are requesting personnel, I am evaluated directly by the council and answer to the council, and that affects the timing of this a little bit.
I think, excuse me, sir, you want to?
I'll go ahead, please.
I was just going to, I'm going to support it, knowing that those needs were there prior to this, even at budget time. We continue to add to the load of this department as opposed to some other departments where, while they have some personnel issues as well, we stop projects from going through or let them know that they are going to have to make do, but we continue, I think, with some of the issues, tobacco, alcohol, some things that we keep, significant things we keep adding for exploration. So I'm willing to support this.
I will support this, but my frustration will be borne out here when I see how we can spend so much legal time on the issues that are relatively clear, and especially went to the bar issues and the excess drinking by underage people. I think that's unfair to the city and to the other citizens to develop all that much expense when the law says this is what you're supposed to do, and it's not done. But I will support it.
I think just for point of clarification, I don't question there will be a lot of time spent, but that time will be spent at the direction of the council. Council was directing the attorney to do that.
I wish things were that easy.
Yes. Roll call?
Wait,
I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
wanted to add it. I would be willing to put some of the issues that are important to all of council on the table to see if we can lessen the time burdens of the city attorney. So for instance, I like the formation of solid waste, but I would put that on the table as saying that's going to be an additional burden for the city attorney, or perhaps we have to talk about certain real estate deals that we would put on the back burner to save some attorney time. And so that's how I would hope to approach the issue of a need for additional city attorney time at this point.
Well, further discussion.
I'll support it. Let's vote on it.
Roll call.
Bob?
Yes.
Vanderhoff?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Champion?
Yes.
Canner?
No.
Lehman?
Yes.
O'Donnell?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-1, Cantor voting no. Announcement of vacancies. Solid Waste Advisory Commission has 2 vacancies to fill 3-year terms ending October 1st, 2003, 2 vacancies to fill 2-year terms ending October 1st, 2002, and 3 vacancies to fill 1-year terms ending October 1st, 2001. This is a new committee that we just formed at the last council meeting.
Right.
Previously announced vacancies, Housing and Community Development Commission, 3 vacancies to fill 3-year terms ending September 1st, 2003. The Police Citizens Review Board has 2 vacancies to fill 4-year terms ending September 2nd, 2004. These appointments will be made on September 12th. Appointments, the Civil Service Commission had no applications this time. Historic Preservation Commission, no appointments. The Public Art Advisory Committee, last night we appointed, we have a motion by Ms. Vanderhoff to appoint who?
Right, Karen McKaylee.
Karen McKaylee. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Seconded by O'Donnell. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. I would certainly encourage the public, if they have any interest in these boards or commissions, to contact the city clerk for an application. Iowa City has been blessed with so many folks who volunteer, and obviously there are some positions that the city can use some help with. City council information. Who would like to start?
I just want to bring up one thing. We've talked about it briefly, about the fountain downtown, and that Steve had dropped me a note that is just turned on automatically by a timer, and if the council was interested in extending that time, it'd be a very simple thing to do. So I was wondering how other people on the council felt about that.
When you say it's turned on by a timer, you mean off and on?
Yeah.
Right.
It also can, I'm told that if enough children or enough people, children don't have to be excluded here, if they step on top of the water long enough and no water can come out, it bypasses and runs out of the system, and after a while it shuts off because it's too low of water, and the city has, the supply of water has to be replenished before it'll start pumping.
That's correct. It does replenish itself automatically, but it takes a while to do it.
Right. So sometimes those times when it's off are...
No, I'm talking about when it's off at 10 o'clock at night.
Well, see, that's why I asked you.
I'm talking about extending that time, because
Okay.
it's lit and it's really attractive, and 10 o'clock, there are a lot of people walking around downtown.
So do you have a...
No, but Connie's right.
I agree.
I don't think it should be shut off at 10 o'clock at night. There's too much activity downtown after 10. But we talked about this. I think maybe Steve was checking into that, Dale. You might just make a note to find out.
Well, I think we should, I mean, if we'd like it extended, they'll extend it.
Well, yeah, I think we do. I think we do.
Okay.
Anything else, Connie?
Nope, that's all.
Urban?
No.
Mike?
Yeah, I've got 3 items here. Last Saturday, we had a very successful ADA parade. It was well attended. It seems to grow every year. I walked in the parade with this incredible person who actually had a leg amputated at the knee, January 29th and walked the entire route with me, and only had to help me a couple times. But I was very, very impressed with this, and that's what that parade is about. I'm very happy to see us moving forward with the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. We have needed it for a long time. I supported it, and I think it's appropriate that we move forward with this. I also went to a meeting on Lexington Avenue with some concerned residents. The Lexington dips are being used as Iowa City's Six Flags. And it's really a concern now. There are people in this area that are very concerned about safety for their children and themselves. There are no sidewalks. You can't walk. And at 2 o'clock during the bar release, there's cars that go over the Lexington dip sometimes at 50 and 60 miles an hour. There's also one young lady, I believe it's either 12 or 13, that is actually afraid to play in her own yard due to the number of cars that have gone through their front hedge and ended up in their yard. So this is something that will be coming to us, and I want to encourage every counselor to sit down and think about this.
But don't go drive the road.
But don't drive Lexington.
Right.
But these are a bunch of concerned people over there, and it's a very valid concern.
D.
Nothing.
Ross.
Nothing.
Stephen?
That's it.
I have two things. Heather Shank, who is familiar to all of the council folks and hopefully a lot of folks in Iowa City, has asked me to remind the community that the 17th of October, I believe, although it does. Pardon? It's Annual Human Rights Awards Breakfast. This is a tremendous event, one that's extremely well attended by folks within the community. But they are looking for nominees for the Civil Rights Awards, and those should be directed to Heather Shank at 356-5022. And this is really something that, it's an important event and something that it really is, it's a great thing for Iowa City. I have one other thing. I can tell folks how to get this Iowa blood donor, and I think it says on the back, University of Iowa Healthcare, DeGowan Blood Center. Now, you can get one of these, like I did, for 1 pint of blood. And during this week, there's a blood drive at the University Hospital. It's something that's so easy to do, and it's something that can really help so many folks. In addition, if you do it this week, in addition to the T-shirt, you could get V8 for free, a cookie, and they'll pay for your parking. But it's very easy to do, and I would certainly encourage folks to call over there, make an appointment. It's something almost all of us can do.
Just 2 announcements. Tomorrow at noon on City Plaza by the fountain, the capital campaign for the Salvation Army will be kicked off. So if you have a moment over your lunch hour, come out and join them. And then Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning in North Liberty Family Resource Center at Penn Elementary School, there will be the press conference for the United Way Board of Directors campaign and chair.
They'll be talking about the results from the Johnson County assessment that talks about needs in the community. And then also coming up soon, the United Way will be having their annual funding drive, so keep your eye on the press for that.
Yep. City Attorney. Clerk. Dan? You have a motion to adjourn by Mike.
Second.
Second by Vanderhoff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
7:40.
After sipping a soda, we got a scheme. Somebody else plays the record machine. It's so easy to say bad names when you listen to the trumpet of Harry James. I didn't know why the roses grew, then I wouldn't know why the roses grew. Now listen, honey child, if I didn't know